social networking is effectively a totalitarian wet dream come true. It's a single centralized database of human interest, human sentiment, and human identity. It's extraordinarily powerful. But if we know that, why do we keep using this stuff? Why? Because social networking is an industry that mines a very important mineral, you might say, a mineral in human culture, the mineral of the fear of irrelevance. Social networking is built on the fear of social irrelevance. We cannot bear to not participate. If we don't participate, we might be irrelevant. And as human animals, we're terrified of that. As social animals, we're terrified of that. We're terrified of being irrelevant. We're terrified of not having a place, of not being valued. And these industries, these corporations, are mining that. You can think of it as like a coal or a diamond or a bronze or a copper or something like that. When you can't describe the infrastructure on which you depend, if you don't have a basic vocabulary in the context of, as I say, engineering, even just to be able to describe it, you don't have to be an engineer, but just describe what's happening, then you cannot describe your environment. If you can't describe your environment, you can't describe control and how you might be controlled. You can't see where the power is. When I refer to the closed world, I'm referring to an excellent book by a guy called Paul Edwards. It's called The Closed World, and it looks at the revolution in computing technology in the 1950s, following the Truman doctrine of containment. It's the idea that the world is full of dangerous, scary people. That we need airspace control and surveillance. We need early warning systems. We need nuclear response systems. So we're going to use computers in the context of a network to be able to build a sensor mesh around the world, such that we can know what's happening at any given time. And that is something that was actively developed and designed in the 1950s. I'm not going to talk about all my projects. That would be extreme, but and irrelevant to much of what we're talking about. But let's just say that I did a lot of this interactive art stuff, this class, interactive installations, and I did lots of computer vision work, and in recent times lots of augmented reality stuff for smartphones and for head-mounted displays in the past. Even earlier I did lots of virtual reality, when virtual reality was still cool, when virtual reality was going to change the world, when we're all going to swim in the Matrix. Did that. But lately I've sort of seen the media arts for myself and my colleagues in Berlin is not such a valuable term. There's been a need for us to sort of frame our practices within something a bit more concrete that addresses this techno-political stuff that keeps coming up in our work. It's cute, isn't it, when people do that? It's like, oh, it's so tricky. But anyway, so what we've done is we've defined this thing called critical engineering. Critical engineering, and we wrote a manifesto, criticalengineering.org. It's been translated into 13 languages. It'll soon be in Mandarin Chinese. And critical engineering is about situating engineering as a vital, creative, critical language. It's about saying, right, well, it's not about art as such, it's about working on the terms by which the world is given. But engineering defines, as I said earlier, defines much of our environment, much of the world that we live in today. So without even needing to be an engineer, even though much of us, a lot of the work we do is engineering, just encountering the vocabulary a little bit is already putting you in a better critical position. If you can't describe your environment, you can't make critical choices. You can't be informed. Facebook, I think, is a really good example. People think of it as a service. But as I said before, it's a North American company. It's a North American company that addresses a North American legal context. It was written with this guy, Daniel Vasiliev. He's my colleague in Berlin. He's a Russian, St. Petersburg. We work together a lot, Daniel and I. We travel a week a month together. Got quite a few projects. Goran Savičić, he's Austrian Serb. Lives in at the moment in Lausanne in French Switzerland. He's a studio partner. And me. And I'll talk about a few critical engineering projects now. But before I do the first line of the critical engineering manifesto is this: the critical engineer considers engineering to be the most transformative language of our time, shaping the way we move, communicate, and think. It is the work of the critical engineer to study and exploit this language, exposing its influence. But what I mean by exploit? Exploit's a difficult word. It was difficult to translate into German. It's difficult to translate into Spanish. To exploit is to take advantage of a vulnerability, or to take advantage of. And when you are doing what's traditionally known as hacking, for instance, when you're hacking, you're taking advantage of vulnerabilities. But what you're also doing is you're exposing an edge, a seam. You're finding an entry point. And these entry points are important. The hacker is not necessarily a menacing person. What the hacker is doing is it's bringing the edges into the foreground. When you take an iPod Nano and you crack it open, what you're doing is you're exposing the inner workings, or at least the possibility for learning. So a hacker, if you like, is someone that exposes both the inner workings and then the possibility of further learning, and then furthermore exposing influence. And the last line in the manifesto, it's kind of short, number 11, the critical engineer considers the exploit to be the most desirable form of exposure. And much of the work that we're doing at the moment in this critical engineering frame, people call it art anyway. I mean, some of the projects we've done are very much in museums. You know, they end up in museums and galleries and stuff, which is great. They're conversational spaces, good. But for us, it's important to tighten the frame. We're not interested in making interactive art exhibits for museums and galleries. We want to work more acutely with the material of technology. So one project I made recently is a weapon called the Transparency Grenade. It's based on the Soviet F1 hand grenade. This all is actually silver, put together by a very talented goldsmith in Berlin called Suzanne Stark. And this is a little LED bar graph, and that's a microphone. On the other side is a little screen. Fits in your hand just like a Soviet F1 hand grenade. It's a very powerful weapon. It's killed lots of people. And in the inside is a tiny computer and a broadband wireless antenna and a 3.7 volt battery. When you pull the pin, it takes all of the network data in your environment and all the voice data, anything that's said, and tunnels it to my server, where it is mined by software on my server. My software goes through it and pulls out all the images, HTML fragments and email, and puts it on a map next to the name of the computer that was responsible for that data. So when there's a corporation or a government is having a meeting that's supposed to be within a democratic space, it's supposed to be open. It's an open meeting, a public debate, but they're keeping a few things behind closed doors. You can stand outside the wall, pull the pin, and make that meeting open, make it transparent. It's a transparency grenade. And there's a few shots for the design. Some of the silver, this is the lever. When you pull the pin, the lever pops out and it makes a contact that allows the flow of power from the battery to go through the board. The board is a shot of it. This board is my electronics studio in Berlin, where I made it. The board is a little, it's called a gumsticks board. It's a neat little thing. That's me just working on it at the studio. It runs Linux. It's got around about a 4 megabyte operating system. 4 megabytes. The body itself is actually it's a beautiful new material by a company called Materialize in Belgium. It's a printable resin. It's a printable translucent resin, and it's kind of cheap. I wanted to make it out of glass, really out of glass. I love the idea of it being an object of desire, you know, of it being like a perfume bottle or something like that. I wanted to have this thing of being a precious object at the same time as being a cyber weapon. But and I couldn't get it done in glass. It was going to cost 5,000 euros or something crazy just to get it cast in glass. But in the end, there's this amazing material you actually print it, and it's cost me like I think 150 euros to get these parts printed, which is great. So now I'm showing this piece all around at the moment. There's the parts laid out. You have here, you have the 10 minutes. Okay, no worries. You have the broadband antenna there with the battery. You have a little Arduino. It's an Arduino Nano. The board. You have a little screen there, etc., etc. And this is what the map looks like when you pull the pin, like in San Francisco. Pull the pin, makes a detonation, and then you see what IPs are browsing, what images. You have many different views. For instance, when you buy something like an iPad or whatever, it's your name might be Kevin. It'd be like Kevin's iPad. That'll be the host name. So the new version actually has that there. Naturally, it's not a good idea to walk into a meeting with a grenade in your pocket. It's just possibly not the smartest thing you would have done in your life. So I'm making an Android application at the moment that runs silently in the background on phones. So you start it up, you put it in your pocket, and someone says, "Can I see your phone, please?" You open it up, and there's no way of them seeing that the application is running. It's mimicking the functionality of the grenade. Not quite as powerful. The grenade is very powerful. It sees a long way. In the workshop today, I'm going to be showing you how to read other people's stuff in the air. The other project I'll talk about very, very briefly is this book. It looks like a boring book. It looks like a Brian book. But yeah, it's a cloth-bound book, and it was commissioned by the Hauskultur und Welt in Berlin, Labor Berlin, also, and Transmediale. The artistic director of Transmediale asked us to come up with something, and we could just publish a book. And it was supposedly a catalogue of our exhibition there, which is 10 pieces in this museum, which are all dealing with these topics. And yeah, we did this. But this book is kind of a special book. I think I've even got it here in my bag. I hope I do. Let's check. I do. Cool. Basically, when you open the book, it's going to be a surprise. Open it properly. Yeah. So when you put the book up like that, open it up, and it's, you know, you've got the title page. It looks pretty normal. Title page. Yada yada, yeah, etc., etc. The blank page, go a bit further, and there's a computer in the back. This is a computer that we hand designed. It was actually designed by studio partner Bengt Sjölund. He's a Swedish guy. It's a 7-layer PCB. It's a wireless network card. It's a whole functional computer that works as a web server, but not on the World Wide Web. When you open the book, like this, it creates an internet-independent wireless network, allowing you to read the book from your smartphone, tablet, computer, or laptop. So it publishes its pages into the air. When you close the book, no one can read it anymore. The network is closed. It works in a mountain, out on the ocean, in a cave. It's about 100 of those. And this is a good example of, for me at least, of that. You know, networking doesn't have to be about the internet. You know, networking can be an intimate connection between one device and one other device, an intimate space that can be closed. You can control the network. And the other one I'm going to finish with is a project called News Tweak, that we're lucky enough to get the Golden Nika for at Ars Electronica last year. We're showing this project all around the world. This This is a small it's a small wall plug, like a auf Deutsch is Netzstecker. This guy plug it into the wall, and when it boots up, it attacks the local wireless network, routing all of the traffic through itself, allowing the owner of the box to then fly to Madagascar, Toronto, Sydney, Auckland, New Zealand, Kuala Lumpur, wherever, and then modify the news that's read on that network. You can change the headlines, you can change the text. So each network becomes a reality island. This event's called Island CQ. Every network becomes a... If I control the network here, and you're browsing the news on this network, which I could be controlling now, I'll show you how to do this in the workshop, or at least the theory of how it works. Then you could believe that an asteroid wearing a pink party hat is on its way to Earth. Scientists are killing themselves, not because it's going to hit the Earth, but because it's wearing a pink party hat. That election results have changed, sport results have changed, or whatever. You can control that reality. People will then jump on their bikes and go back to the camp, thinking, "Fuck, I've got to call my mother." Shit. But in fact, none of that stuff's happened. This is our Indian model. This is one of our slogans. Behind every mind is a network. Own it. When you control the network, you control the minds. Looks like that. I'm going to now show you a video. It's a bit heavy, this video, for my ancient, beautiful computer. Poor thing. On its last legs. Anyway, here we go.
Do you have sound?
Yeah.
It's not that people think they're being subject to propaganda. If people don't think that, they aren't looking for that, they're much easier to propagandize. And that's the genius of our media system.
That guy carrying it is Danya Vasiliev. He's the co-author of this project. It's a real bakery. It exists. It's a real proper bakery.
Media is the nervous system of a democracy.
Yeah.
If it's not functioning well, the democracy can't function.